Hello, hello, beautiful moms. So excited to be with you again today. And I have a wonderful guest, a long-term friend of mine. Candi and I go way back, who's going to come on and talk about, of course, motherhood, but being a mother to twins and something that she's going through at the moment, which is called empty nest. So I'm sure that a lot of you can relate. Please remember that if you catch us live, ask any questions that you may have. I will bring them up onto the screen. And if you catch us on a replay, give us a hashtag replay so that we know that you're there. And of course, you're welcome to reach out to us anytime. Hi, Candi. How you doing?
Hi, guys. Hi, Terri. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Very excited to be here with you today.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me and for your time. I keep forgetting that it's a Monday. It actually feels like a Sunday today. I had to give that some thought now. But it's long weekend here. Is it a public holiday in South Africa?
No, we had long weekends last weekend. So yeah, we're now over our long weekend stretch for a while.
We had a long weekend last weekend and this weekend. Yeah.
Yes.
But today is because of the coronation, actually. So I think it's just because that was on the weekend. So today is a public holiday.
Indeed.
Amazing. So Candi, tell us more about, like the highs and lows of motherhood when it comes to actually raising twins. Something I have no idea about. I've just watched you do it for many years.
So I think that the biggest thing is people go, wow, twins, how did you do that? And I like to always answer with, well, I don't know any better. So I don't know what it's like just to have one child at one time. So for me, that was life. That was normal, having these two babies in my life all of a sudden. And I mean, we were both very young moms, you and myself. And that's what makes us very passionate moms, I think, that we're young moms. So I was 19, turning 20 when I had the twins. And yeah, I think when you're that young, you don't know yourself very well and don't know much about life, although you think you know a lot. So it was quite a shocker because I just finished matric. I'd realized during the end period of my matric year, my final year of high school, that I was pregnant. I knew I was pregnant. And then we went on matric holiday. And on the way back, I was like, there's something wrong. And off we went and we had a scan, and I was about 5.5 weeks pregnant. And the doctor said, okay, I can pick up 2 heartbeats. And I thought, okay, that's good. The baby's heartbeat and my own. And he's like, no, I'm going to shock you. You're having twins. So yeah, that was quite the shocker. So yeah, fresh out of high school. And that's what I've known life for the past 20 years is just being a mom, so and like I said, when you're 19, you think you know everything. So my kids obviously have turned 19. They're turning 20 this year already. So when they were about 18, 19, they figured that they knew everything. So I allowed the little birdies to fly the nest. They chose to leave the home. So yeah, I think there's been a big shift in my life now with going from this extreme scheduled life and very busy life, and one in this school and one in that school, and this one's forgotten their school shoes here and that one's forgotten that there, and 10 million different activities to get through, to going to nothing, where my life is my own now. And so it's been quite a weird swing on this pendulum. So right now I'm in the process of trying to find a little bit of a balance and just keep that pendulum just swinging just a little. But instead of going from that one extreme of this extreme, busy, hectic, chaotic life, and you have to be in the car by 6 o'clock or you're going to be late, and going to this other part of my life now where there's nothing, I'm fortunate enough to work for my husband. So that means I make him coffee, and it's when I say that, but I make him coffee and I get to discover who I want to be now. And yeah, one of the things that we discuss often is taking back your own pen and writing your own story. And I believe that's where I am in my life now, is my time to write my own story, because my story was written for me, even though I made those choices.
Yeah, and it's so hard because I think so many of us can relate to that, that our story has really just been written for us and we've been living by the rules of others for so long. So obviously you did that for most of being a mom, so now that you actually get to take that pen back, what is what has been the biggest thing that you've learned so far from that living by everybody else's rules and now getting to live by your own?
Absolutely. So yeah, I think in hindsight, and of course hindsight's one of those like Murphy things, so in hindsight, yes, I tried to live up to everybody else's expectations, all the grandparents, and at the time the ex-husband and the father of the kids, because the father and my ex-husband weren't the same people, and just trying to be this perfect for everybody else. And in hindsight now, I look back at that and I think, you know what, I've missed out on so much quality time with my own kids because I was just trying to be perfect for everybody else. So I feel a bit sad about that I feel like I've lost out and my children have lost out in that. But, we had our little parting when they decided they knew everything. And now we sort of regrowing that relationship. And I feel like I got almost like a second chance with them, to redevelop a proper relationship with them and a true relationship with them instead of living up to everybody else's expectations and demands. And you have to be this sort of a mum. And if you're not doing that, then you're upsetting that person, that person expects you to parent like this. But these people don't even live in my home or,
Exactly.
or contribute in any which way. And I allow them to rule my life. And so I'm sitting with that a lot, sitting with this, wow, that these people actually controlled my life and allowed them to control my life so much. So, yeah, and just being fortunate enough to be able to discover a new relationship with my kids at this point as they go into adulthood, as they experience life like I had to all of a sudden and be this adult all of a sudden. So, yeah, it's quite weird. Sometimes I feel a little bit like I'm in the twilight zone.
I can imagine though, and especially because this is what we're all about, is that healing motherhood. So this like healed version of yourself going into this relationship, like really a clean slate, because it's like a new relationship that you're building, and just having a whole different way of looking at it and understanding it. Do you find that difficult sometimes though? Because I think, what I see with my own teenager is that she can't let go of those past versions of our relationship, whereas I'm like going into this as a new person, new understanding, trying to understand that she has her own perspective. She's not able to do that yet. This is part of the healing process. How do you find that?
Yeah, very interesting, because my kids are a little bit older than your daughter, and they've been thrown in the deep end where they've had to now fend for themselves. They had to find a house, they had to find their own way, they had to figure it out, and they've been doing it for about 1.5 years now already, almost 2 years now. I think just being thrown in that deep end, I think gives you more of appreciation for your parents. I kind of think back to the time when I was their age, 19, 20, pregnant with them and going, what's going on? And then only discovering that appreciation for my parents and my grandparents who brought me up, So I think it's that, where with your daughter, she's still at home. So she's still got mommy as that safety net, where
that's so
I made it very clear to my kids, if you leave, that's it, guys. There's no coming back running to mommy and mommy saving you. If you decide to leave now, that's it. You've got to swim. You've got to swim.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite an interesting one. But yeah, I find that I'm still very like apprehensive, because also my daughter's very much like your daughter, where she likes to hold on to those gripes.
Yeah, like come on, girls, let go already.
But I mean, they've learned that from us, because I mean, we also we thrived on drama. We did, until we got to this point in our lives where we were like, whoa, we don't like this anymore. We don't want this drama in our lives, and started looking at ourselves and started healing ourselves, and then started understanding our daughters better. And I think it's very much a mother-daughter situation here. Whereas, it's very typical and so stereotypical that it's daddy's girl and mommy's boy, and that we have this hard relationship with our daughters, but it's just because they are mini-me's.
Yeah,
They're totally mini-me's.
it's all of that. It's all of that wounding, and I totally get that with my daughter, because I've done so much work on myself, and we have healed our relationship to a certain point. But jeepers, she triggers the living daylights out of me, and then I'm really like, have I done this work or not? Because I feel a little crazy inside. Although I have to give myself credit, I'm not like exploding like I used to. I can internalize everything and kind of have that argument with her in my head rather than out loud. But geez, she triggers me a lot. And I have to sit with that, because I realize it's all that inner child wounding that I still have to fix. She reminds me so much of that wounded inner child. And it's scary, isn't it? Because they really are just like small versions of us.
Absolutely. And even watching my daughter now, because my son's special needs, she's like always in a way almost mothered him, especially from a young age where they lived with their father. And she felt this need to protect her brother so much. So obviously this is now still carried on into their early adulthood. And I'm now starting to see my mothering skills in her, but not those good ones. I can see her losing her patience with him, and I just want to reach out to her and just hug her and say it's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm finding myself having more patience with him now as well. Like when I go and visit, like the other day, she had a total meltdown because the mozzies were biting her, the mosquitoes were going mad at her, and I felt myself getting so worked up and so triggered, and I was going to scream at this child. And it didn't. It was so weird. I took this deep breath and I was like, how am I going to handle this situation? And I just walked quietly over to my bag, and I like scratched in my bag, and I found some like perfume, and I just went over to her calmly. And I was like, give me your leg. And I sprayed her leg, and it felt so good, because it like, that's what I should have mothered like, So like in a way I get to re-mother again. So it's very cool that I get to kind of do what feels natural now instead of what was expected.
Amazing. And also because I think that you've healed so many parts of yourself that were screaming, and that's huge. And also, like, Candice, so I think we have some moms in the group that have I hate that word, special needs. But that's pretty much how we recognize these poor children in the world. But so many moms have that kind of lifestyle. So what was that like for you, having one child that needed most of your time, and then the other child that,
And it was so hard because also they're twins, so there's this whole expectation around twins already. And that's one thing I did very early on, is that I didn't want to bring them up as a unit. I wanted them to have their individuality, and it was easier because they were a boy and a girl. But a lot of people will bring their twins up as a unit instead of those kids developing individually. So that was one learning thing. The other learning thing was that I always say that my son is my biggest teacher in life. I really feel he has taught me real life lessons, not stuff that you learn in school. Like, he's taught me about having a routine and having a schedule and having things neatly packed away, and just, and also like, he fascinates me. He just totally fascinates me. His world that he lives in is so different from our world, like I kind of envy him in a way that he lives in this unreality, that life's not really so hard. But, unfortunately we do live in reality, and life isn't always easy, but yeah, he's taught me a lot. Like I say, he's been really my biggest teacher. I think, I've just learned so much. I mean, going through parent counseling and Tara, so we've got a special place, that government facility that I sent my son to, where they inpatiented him for a certain amount of time, and then we tried medications, and they offer parent counseling. So I went through a lot of parent counseling, and they taught me a lot of skills. But my problem was that I'd been taught all of these skills, but I was unable to practice them because it didn't suit that one and that one and that grandparents and that parents. And so, but yet what they taught me made sense. So as much as I could practice what they taught me, helped me. So things like having visual aids for my son. So I'd really battle, and my daughter says she still battles to get him to shower and clean himself. So like learning to have visual aids, like having a picture of a little boy brushing his teeth right next to the basin. And
Yeah.
Terry, you know, I made checklists. I made checklist and checklist and checklist, the visual aids for him. So we could go through, this is what you need to do for yourself in a day, because there's going to be a time in your life when I'm not here to help you anymore. And you've got to be able to brush your teeth, and you've got to be able to dress yourself, you know? So yeah, it's been, sorry, excuse me. I also felt like I almost also feel like I paved a way in a way, because what we know now about autism and what we knew then about autism, I mean, they kept telling me, we can't tell what's wrong with your child until he's 6. And I knew there was something wrong with him when he was 18 months old, you know, and as a young mom, you don't know things about your own body, let alone this tiny little piece of person who's screaming all the time. You don't know what's wrong with him, and you've taken him to doctors and they can't tell you what's wrong with him. And so going from that, like not knowing so much about autism to today, where we know so much more, and there's so much more resources and support around it and stuff, you know. So I feel like we were very much in like the dark ages.
Yeah.
You know, so
Now, you know, like I don't know how far it's come in South Africa, but even just being here, and obviously because Therese has a similar kind of history with Tara, but here in the UK, it can take up to 4 years to get a diagnosis of autism. And I just feel like that's torture for the child, because in those 4 years they can't have therapy, they can't have anything to just try and help them manage or cope, because they are not diagnosed with it. So if they don't have that label from a doctor, even though you know something's wrong and you know that they need help, it's very hard to get the help that they need.
Absolutely. And like I'm saying, this was early days of autism. So, you know, immediately your child is labeled as ADHD. So they put them on Ritalin straight away, you know. So, and whereas like some people feel that, yes, you can medicate autism, but you don't have to either. And the reason why we medicate is so society can deal with that being, that person, you know. And I find that very cruel and very sad, but we fell into that trap because we had to, you know. Like it was difficult with schools. I mean, Hunter went through so many schools, and it was so difficult all the time to try and explain to him, well, now we've got to put you into another school because, well, actually they can't cope with you because you don't know how to fit into society. Even though we're trying to teach you how to fit into society, he just doesn't fit into that box. He's just not that box.
But that brings us back to like that they live in a different world, and you know, is it so bad that it's hard for them to be conditioned and that they don't want to obey by the rules? Because I don't think it's actually that bad. Like you said, it's just because we have to try and help them manage to live in a world that actually sucks.
Right, exactly. That we don't quite even fit into either, but we're forced to, you know, being squished into that square block, and you're like, I'm a triangle, I don't fit. You know,
I love that. I'm a triangle. I think I'm gonna have a t-shirt made like that. I'm a triangle.
I don't fit into the square box. Yeah. So yeah, so that's where Hunter's been my biggest teacher, is that not everybody fits into this box. And it's, you know, for me in my own journey now, realizing that I don't have to fit into this box. I don't have to. I really don't have to be a box when I'm a triangle, you know. So I think that's been a big learning lesson that I've learned through him too. But yeah, but that society is hard, and society is cruel, you know. I had to medicate my child so much for him just to be accepted into a classroom, to have friends, to, you know, because like having twins, and especially when they were in like the pre-primary school phase and they were together at school, where they would have common friends, and then Hannah would only be invited to the party and Hunter wouldn't be invited to the party. I mean, it's so hard to explain to your son that why hasn't he been invited? And as a mother, I mean, you feel torn. You're like, how can you not invite my child?
You not invite my child? Exactly.
Invite my one child, but you don't invite my other child. That's not okay, So yeah, it was very difficult. But then again, also having that understanding that my kids are individuals, and that sometimes Hannah wants to go to girls' parties and Hunter wants to go to boys' parties, and it's okay then not to be invited to the same party as they got older. But in those initial younger stages, it was very hard. And like I said, we didn't know much, and we didn't know what was wrong, and we're just shoving stuff down the poor kids' throats. And
but that's the thing, I think, and okay, I know like how much guilt comes with that because I've been in the similar situation, but we really do. We just trust the doctors and the professionals to be the ones with all the right information, and we trust that we're doing the right thing for our child until we actually go down that road and we're like, hold on a moment, this doesn't really feel right. Like I remember when Therese was on medication, I was just like, I've totally lost my child. Like, sure, she could sit still in a classroom, but she's got no personality at all. Like, I don't know if this is such a great thing to be doing. And obviously that's when we also did the same as you. We took her off all the meds, and it's just so hard because you're doing the best that you possibly can. And you trust people that are meant to have the knowledge, but then at the end of the day, maybe it's not always the right thing. And like you say, we have to listen to so many different people, and we have to fit into so many boxes. It's not easy, especially when you also have,
again, having the whole legal thing behind it too, because
so tell us more about that, Candi, if you're happy to share. But you've been down the road where everybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry, grandparents, kids,
One of the grandparents took us to court because we had then decided that we wanted to take Hunter off the chemical medication and put him onto natural medication. And this was obviously just before in our country that marijuana was decriminalized. So we were trying Hunter out. We were doing a quick wean, which also in hindsight wasn't a good idea, especially after doing a bit more research after that. So, doing the quick wean, but seeing the difference from Hunter being on the natural from the chemical, it was chalk and cheese. My kid was happy. He was playing. He was, just the only thing we couldn't control then was obviously that concentration and keeping him a little bit calm. But again, those social norms that he needed to be in school. So, and then the grandparent took us to court, and then I had to make a decision. It's either or. And at that stage, because Tara was such a huge support system in my little life, in my little world, our doctor, our psychiatrist said to me, she doesn't know enough about the natural medication to comment, and that if I chose, at the end of the day, it was my decision as the parent with which way I decide to go with my child. But if I decided to go with the natural, she's unable to help me. So I panicked and I put him back onto the chemical medication because I was like, I need this help from this lady because I really felt that she was my only real support that I had through the autism challenges that we had with Hunter. And she was the one who was giving me the best advice, and the advice which felt good in my gut, that what she said made sense. Whereas I had to live up to everybody else saying, no, you got to do this and you got to do that. And I was like, but who are you people? You're not professionals. You don't pay anything in my house. You're not in my house every day. You don't have to deal with this child picking himself and not being invited to parties. And, he makes friends for 3 seconds, because Hunter's a very friendly person. But I could see this every time he would make a new friend. The friend would obviously pick up, oh, this child's a bit different, and didn't want to play with Hunter. And then Hunter would be friendless again within 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's so hard. It's so hard to see that. I see that we have a viewer loving this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us and for staying with us. And so, Candi, with that, like how how was that for you? Like, here's a young mom, first of all, of twins, not really understanding and not having that support structure. Like, how did you manage? Because you were a single mom of two,
Yeah, pretty
and
much. Yeah.
obviously you ended up alone. So how do you do that without any support?
So initially, obviously, there was a lot of support around and stuff. But yeah, once their father and my relationship broke down, and then they stayed with their father for a bit, and then they came to live with me, I did have the support of my dad, which was really cool. And, I had you as well. So I put my support down to the family I got to choose, you know,
Yeah.
definitely. And surrounding myself with my mommy friends, because also being so young, I mean, the people I went to high school with, they're either having kids now or their kids are going to primary school. And I'm going, well, my kids are out of school and out of the house already. It's so weird for me having my peers now having kids and babies, and my kids are out the house. So that's also a bit. So it was very lonely. So when I found you as my friend, and you were also a young mom, and you could understand and relate to me, whereas my peers couldn't. My peers were going to varsity and getting education and traveling the world. And, I
Mm,
started instant family instead. It was the choice I made. So,
totally. And so what's been your biggest life lesson then?
sure, I don't know. I think I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
I feel the same. I
Definitely.
feel the same.
My WhatsApp status is always set to at the school of life, because I'm constantly at the school of life. I'm constantly learning. So yeah, and I think the exciting thing now is that I get to learn about me now. And like I said,
Yeah.
we're at this stage where I've taken back my own pen, and I get to write my story now. So, and it's not even like reinventing, it's me inventing now. Because before I was put into boxes that I had to adhere to, whereas now I get to invent whatever I want. So, like I'm saying, it's not even a reinvention; it is an invention. It's a creative journey that I get to choose now, without these what I call big bad wolves on my back. Because as we grow up, we develop these big bad wolves, whether it's parent conditioning or an uncle who told you something when you were little, whatever. And as you go through your teenagehood, and then you pick up more bad wolves. And as a young mom and as a young adult, I picked up terrible big bad wolves of, oh, you're
Mm.
not good enough, and you're not a good enough mom, and what do you know? You're so young. And you know what? I came to this realization when I was about 35 years old. I was like, wow, I'm actually an adult. Okay. I'm actually an adult. And it took so long because all of these people had been treating me like this stupid, naive 19-year-old girl fresh out of high school. And nobody really allowed me that space to develop as an adult. But yet I was making adult decisions for my young children. I was living an adult life, but still feeling like this naive 19-year-old who needs to be instructed on how to be a mother and how to be the perfect wife. And yeah.
Yeah, it's like so today is obviously Kai and Donovan's birthday. So this morning, I gave him a hug and I'm like, "Are you feeling like an old man yet?" And he's like, "No, what do you mean? I'm only 27. When I turn 30, then you can say old." I said, "Stuff you, buddy. I only grew up at the age of 30, and I always knew my 30s would be the best years of my life, and I haven't been wrong." So it's just like,
Absolutely.
it really is like that light bulb just goes on at 30 and you realize, like, hang on a minute. It's
I'm
not up to
adulting.
everybody else. I get to make the choices for real.
Absolutely.
Actually, I get to decide who I want to be. I'm also at this like weird crossroad now, Candy, and I'm gonna start leaning on you more because it's this like having the opportunity to actually just listen to that inner knowing of what you should actually be doing rather than what you're forced to do or what everyone expects you to do, and just finding that true alignment. So how's that going for you now? The kids are out the house. Obviously, you have a husband that supports you to just ferry all day and do whatever you want to do. So, like, How does that feel, going from like one extreme to the other? Like, how are you coping with that?
Yeah, so that's where as I went to my talkie doctor today as well, and that's exactly what we're talking about, is this like swing on the pendulum, going from this one extreme to the other and trying to find that balance. But also, once you've swung on that pendulum, you don't want to just stop there and be stagnant either. So to have this like little bit of flexibility and just this little bit of sway. So that's what I'm kind of trying to look for now, because I find a lot of the times I will swing to that other extreme where I'm like, oh, well, there's nothing to do. Why should I do anything? Let me just sit on the couch the whole day and do nothing. And then that turns into a few days of that. And then it turns into a bit of depression and a bit of like lack of self-worth and stuff. And this is all something that
to
I've
bring up
discovered.
all that yucky stuff again.
Correct. And this is like the stuff that we've been working on so closely for the past almost 2 years now. I mean, Terri and I've been working very closely for on ourselves and our self-worth, and that's been a big thing for me, is realizing my self-worth. And I mean, going from that narcissistic relationship with my ex-husband as well, where I've really had to relearn every part of my life. And I'll be honest, and I say it often, because I had to relearn to brush my teeth, guys. Like, that's how bad it was. I neglected myself in trying to please everybody else and be this perfect for everybody else, that I totally didn't know about myself. So I'm at this point where I'm learning who I am, who I want to be. I need to look after myself. And sometimes it's tiring. I'm like, how do you do this every day? How do you brush your teeth and shower and then still put on makeup and then blow dry your hair and then go to gym and then walk the dogs and then still go to work and I'm like, whoa. Sometimes the self-care just feels like too much too, but then just remembering that self-care is small steps. So if it is only, hey, I brushed my teeth today, it's a good day, I brushed my teeth,
But
so
also,
yeah,
it's just like that, reminding yourself not to compare yourself to others. Like, we all have such a different story, and I think anybody that's been in a narcissistic relationship can totally get that. Like, it's so much healing and so much hard work just to come out on the other side of that, and like you say, to brush your teeth and to really help yourself believe that you are worthy and that you're enough, because you spent a lot of time with your ex. So that's like 8 to 9 years of being bullied and made to believe anything less than the fact that you're enough and important. So it's about being kind to yourself and remembering that we're all so different.
Absolutely. Like I said, even looking back at my kids, and sometimes I want to beat myself up because, like I said, I allowed these people to have so much control over my life instead of having a relationship with my kids. But then I have to remind myself, I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And now that I know better, I can look at the situation in a different light and deal with my kids in a different way. And I'm surprising myself even, like often I surprise myself, especially when this whole journey started. So I feel this turning point happened when this grandparent took us to court, which was in 2018. And that's when I sort of also started thinking, no, hang on, I need to be me. I need to, my kid, it's also getting to that time when my kids are teenagers. It's going to be short. They're going to be out of the house soon. What's going to happen when my children leave my house? Who am I when my kids leave my house? And as much as I was trying to prepare myself for that anyways, I mean, I still have those days where I feel like I don't have any self-purpose because there's nobody to look after. Even though I do look after my hubby, I make sure that he has his meds and I wake him up and coffee and, he looks after me in certain ways and we've got this beautiful relationship. I'm so grateful for him. But, it's just, going from these extremes is quite hectic, and trying to find a balance now is the focus, and a flexible balance, I think, is
So
basically.
I had such a lovely call with Dina before this, and she's also so amazing, and she's also very dedicated to building communities for moms. And we're just talking about like that the biggest thing that moms really struggle with, and that's that loss of identity, right? And I mean, like I went through this. I was just so done being a wife and a mom that I like threw in the towel literally and packed my shit and went to Thailand. So if there's anybody that gets it, it's me. But it's so sad that so many of us really feel like as soon as we become moms, we lose our identity. But then the more you actually start to work on yourself, you realize that you didn't even have an identity before you became a mother.
Correct.
The mother was just the fucking tip over the edge.
Box.
Excuse my F-bomb there. But that was
Correct.
just like,
Correct. That was the box that you needed
right?
to fit into. That's what I'm trying to say is that, we were thrown into, well, we chose motherhood at a very young age. So we were forced into this motherhood square box. And now we're realizing that we didn't have to be like that. We should have trusted our gut and our intuition. I keep saying from now on, whenever I feel that knot in my stomach, I'm going to listen to it. Yeah. Because every time I had that knot in my stomach and I didn't listen to it, I'd have egg on my face. I'd end up in court or drama or walking down the street in my socks, fighting with somebody or something. You know what I'm saying? So, also coming to that part in my life going, you know what, I'm so sick and tired of the drama, and only realizing now going through the course with you that I created that drama.
We do, because that's where we feel comfortable, like because of our childhood trauma, like the chaos is comfort, so we create chaos. And I think that's a very big lesson that we begin to learn as we start to heal, is learning to be comfortable without the chaos. And it's actually really uncomfortable trying to learn how to do that, and accepting the peace and the quiet and the love that we get in our lives, because for so long we believed, and we were made to believe through our narcissistic or abusive relationships as well, that we weren't worthy of it. So when we finally have that love, accepting that it is true and it's meant for us, because I think that's something that's really hard to do as well after being in such a relationship like that.
Absolutely. And like one of my other best friends, I mean, her baby's just over a year old now, so I'm sorry about that. So her baby's just a year old now, and I'm looking at her going, I don't know how you have the energy to do this now at your age. All of these things, and just watching her and going, wow, she's doing such an incredible job with this baby. It's so amazing. And I think maybe because she has that more maturity, we are now almost 40. We do have that more patience, that more understanding. And so it's quite amazing watching her bringing up her baby now, and my babies are like gone and out the house.
Do you ever feel broody?
A little bit, but not so much. I'm like, I couldn't imagine doing this all over again. And I'm watching her, and this baby's constantly on the hip, and I'm like, no, I can't. And I thought I slept bad, but I went away with him for a weekend. And after that weekend, I needed a weekend from the weekend because
you weren't even partying. You just had a baby in the house.
Right, exactly. We just had a restful weekend, I was trying to relieve her of baby every now and then, so she could rest a little bit. And but again, I find that she's also gone into that whole motherhood box, that her life, it doesn't matter anymore. She doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is baby. And I've been commissioned to make a baby book, and I'm sitting here thinking, when is this mom going to have time to write this shit in? Because I've forgotten what they still need to learn, And when you've got this newborn baby, you don't have time to sit and write in a baby book, So I'm like making this baby book thinking, okay, I'm going to make it with as much love as I possibly can. And I'm also going to make a very special section for the mom. So it's going to be like a mom diary. So how do you feel today? What do you have to do for yourself? Remember something about yourself. What was the best part of your day? So make it so she remembers herself. So you don't get stuck into this identity of his mom. And then when your children leave, you're like, what the fuck am I? Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, F-bomb. What am I? You know, because that was my thing. I'm like, what am I now? Because I've been a mom since I was fresh out of high school. I mean, I was a mom before I had my first job, guys. That's what I know. That's what all I've known for the past 20 years of my life is being a mom. Now my kids are gone, and I'm like, become a brat. Oh, my husband says become a brat. It's pronounced consort. It's pronounced consort, husband. So you're going from this also again like this extreme busyness to nothing, and you're like, what the hell happened in my life? What do I do with myself now? You know, and even though like I love, so I always used to joke as soon as my kids left, I said I don't call it empty nest, I call it art room. So I got very into my art room and stuff. But then there's some days when I sit here and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, what am I going to do? And there's so much to do, and it's just also almost like overwhelming. Like there's so much to do in this art room, and there's plenty of ideas, but sometimes you get a bit of like creative block as well, and you're like, oh, it's a bit daunting. I don't even want to go in there. So I go through these phases of like, I don't want to see the art room, so I've waited for a few days, and then I'm like stuck into it, and then I'm like really stuck into it for like 2 weeks, and then I'm like, oh, it scares me again, you know. So again, I find this, I'm very much on this pendulum swing. So again, I'm just trying to focus right now and trying to find this balance with a bit
of. So that's another thing that Dina said to me on the call. Hey, and she's like, the secrets to finding balance. Balance does not exist. It's something that we've been conditioned to believe we need to achieve, just like everything else, you know. So it was such an amazing call with her. She's actually going to come onto the show as well. But just like that realization that we are constantly chasing all of these beliefs that have been shoved down our throat. And it's not just about motherhood, though, like about being a woman. So we talk about fitting into the motherhood box, but think about every single box we had to check before we got to motherhood. Like it's exhausting. Yeah, and this is why you and I are so passionate about this, because we've waited until our 30s to finally realize that, hey, it's okay for us to be a person before anything else. So we've become passionate about helping moms, you know, achieve this, and through our community, just have that support to talk about the things that you love and appreciate, you know. So what would you say to those moms, Candi, that are just in that place of, I'm a mother and I have no other identity? Like, what's your message to them?
So my biggest message to all moms is that you're never alone, because I think that's no matter what type of mom you can be a mom of multiples, or a mom of a special needs, or a single mom, or whatever mom you are, just you're never alone. There's always another mom out there who is going through something similar, and just to reach out. And that's what I found was reaching out. I mean, especially with you, Terri, having you as my friend, being able to reach out to you and saying, oh, I'm really battling with Hunter, or I'm really battling with Hannah, and having that support, and my friend on the other end, even though you might not have the answers for me, just having somebody to listen to you, I think is so vitally important. So that's my biggest thing to all moms out there, is that you're never alone, please. There's always somebody who's experienced something that you might be going through, or something similar, and to reach out. As for me, like I said, I'm just trying to figure out who I want to be now. I get to choose who I want to be now, which I think is my aim. And what's driving me is that this whole new discovery about who I am is very exciting, you know, that I don't have to fit into anybody else's boxes. I get to choose who I really, really believe that I am inside. You know, that person that I've suppressed for so many years, trying to live up to everybody else's expectations. And I feel like my true nature is really coming out now. I mean, my friends, my very close friends, know that I'm very compassionate, very caring, very loving person, and I will do anything for my friends. And that's just who I really am. And being able to live that now, instead of being told, oh, you're a terrible mother, or you this, or you that, or you have to you have to open the gate for me before I come home, you know?
Yeah,
So,
but I was just
yeah.
thinking about that. Not only like you wanting to be this caring and considerate and compassionate person, or giving yourself to others, but always having that voice in the background saying you're not allowed to do that, or like
Yeah,
my
exactly.
needs come first. So it's so hard also, because when you come out of that relationship and realize like it was all just like conditioning and
Right. And the
um
unconditioning, yeah, the unlearning that you have to do. Like I said, I
yeah.
mean, you really have to relearn every aspect of yourself, down to a lot of self-care, because you let yourself go a lot in that. And right now, one of my most favorite songs ever is the Miley Cyrus Flowers song.
Oh, I love that
It is
song so
just
much. Isn't it
it
so
is just
empowering?
it is. And I feel like that's like my life. It's like exactly what I went through with the ex-husband, that I wanted to save this relationship all the time. I mean, I remember Terri telling me, Candy, can't you see there's problems here? And I'm like, no, Terri, don't worry. Everything will be fine. We'll go for counseling. Don't worry. It will all work out. And I lived in this happy, delusional bubble. And now hearing that song and looking back at my life in hindsight, I'm so glad I can. I take myself dancing. I go dancing twice a week. I do line dancing twice a week. It's my thing. I love the line dancing. It gives me so much joy and happiness. And it's a bit of exercising. And the Tuesday's very social. I'll go to wine dancing on Tuesdays and line dancing on Thursdays. So again, it's just about, yeah, I can take myself dancing. I can hold my own hand. I'm just a completely different person from who I was in that box that I was forced to be in.
Mm. And just to
Absolutely. Finding the
embrace the
freedom.
fact that it's okay for you to do
Huh?
these things. Like, you don't have to carry all that shame and guilt and crap that goes along with it. Like, you are a person too, your needs matter. And the moment, this is one thing that I realized, is because my life was a shit show before I realized it, but that once I actually started looking after myself and doing those things for myself, everything else around me just started fitting into place so perfectly.
Absolutely.
And just discovering who I really am outside of all of those hats, and realizing that that person I was busy pretending to be is nowhere near who I really am at all.
Absolutely.
So it's just so
Right.
interesting to fall in love with yourself, actually, to just
Absolutely.
totally embrace
Absolutely.
who you are authentically.
Absolutely. And I mean, one of my favorite things to do is to take myself out for lunch. I don't do it very often, but it's like a special treat for me. I get to take myself out to lunch. And I think also having such a supportive partner is so vitally important as well, especially coming out of such a hectic relationship.
Mm.
Having that support and somebody who encourages you to be independent and to go out. And I mean, I'll say to us, and still I'm very conditioned. Like, I still go to him and I like kind of ask, and he's like, why are you asking me? Just go, like, will
Yeah.
that bring you joy? Then go and have lunch by yourself. So that's a really big help too. And having that person behind you who encourages you so much to discover
Yeah.
who you are after the traumas that you've been through in your life, it's amazing. It really is. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I am the consort.
But it's something so small like taking yourself for lunch. Hey, it just reminds me, like, that was the biggest thing for me. Is I the previous person I was, and God, I love her. Like, I'm so grateful for her. She taught me so much. But I didn't
Strong.
realize like how insecure she actually was, because she used to portray herself as this confident woman, and inside she's actually dying. I never would have gone into a restaurant on my own or anything. And I remember that tipping point when I was alone in Chiang Mai. And because I remember it so clearly, and I even whenever I see the memory, that selfie, I'm like, you go, girl. Because I just decided, like, stuff it. And I took myself on a date and I went for dinner and I went to a movie house all by myself. I still remember sitting in that movie house like, oh my God, everyone probably thinks I'm such a fool. They probably think, look at this girl, she's all by herself. You know, like, where does that even come from? No one's even looking. But I remember, like, that was the tipping point for me, where I just decided I was going to start dating myself. And it was magical. Like, now I love going out on my own. And I even say to Vern, like, I really miss it, because sometimes, you know, you get so busy, and then when you do go out, it's family. And I'm like, I miss going hiking on my own. And like, whenever I can, I take myself for a sneaky little coffee and I go sit in a coffee shop, and it just feels so nice, you know, to just meet
And I
you.
feel that's so important.
Yeah.
And I feel that's so important. And I really wish that more dads would encourage the mommies to go and do that and offer to take babies for a day or children for a day and say, go and have a mom's day, and not just on Mother's Day, because we have Mother's Day coming up now this weekend. South Africa, we have a different Mother's Day to the rest of the world for some reason. So we've got Mother's Day coming up this Sunday. And yeah, I'd like to encourage the dads to maybe just let the moms go out on dates by themselves, because sure, they do a lot. And I watch my friend and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you do it. And it's so funny because, like I said, people used to say that to me, like, I don't know how you did it, especially with twins. And you just do, you know, you just do. It's a natural instinct which
but that's
kicks
the
in
thing,
and
you
stuff.
just do it, you know, you just do it, and don't even think about yourself for 1 second. You just do. And so many moms just wither away. And I hope, like, through, you know, what we're doing and the community that we're growing, we can be that reminder, like, you matter too, you know, and it's okay to love yourself first. You know, it's like so selfish and so like, how dare you love yourself first? But like, that should be a natural thing. Honestly, I believe that wholeheartedly. Absolutely. And, you know, I live in a different kind of household, because I'm very blessed that my partner does like equally as much as I do. Sometimes I feel like he does more because I'm not always at home. But I always try and encourage him, like, why don't you take yourself out for a beer, or like go do something cool, you know, because he doesn't do it either. So yeah, I think that we're just so conditioned as human beings to not give a shit about ourselves, to be so busy that our life just flies past us. You know, we raising our children by the expectations of others, and then, like you say, before you blink, like today, Kai's 11, and I'm like, I don't even remember raising this little boy. Like, I don't remember him being so small, because it just like was so busy, and you're just in survival mode, right? That it all just goes right past you. Teresa's going to be 18 soon, and I'm like, what the hell? Where did it go? You know, so crazy. So just to be like,
and I think present. You know what, Terri, you've also been a very big teacher for me as well, especially around Kai, because there were certain times I think it was his 5th birthday, where you were in hospital and you came straight from hospital to Kai's birthday party. And then it happened again. You were so sick, you were in hospital and you missed Kai's first day of school. But you had pushed yourself and had been so busy and had been this total different person that you were pretending to be, that you made yourself so sick that you've missed out on 2 quite big events in your son's life. I know that you don't really have too many regrets about it, but you know, it makes you feel sad that I've missed that part of my child's life, you know?
Yeah, a big thing like of the story that I share with my coaching and stuff is missing Kai's first day of school. Like that killed me. But I remember I went in for keyhole surgery, and I still planned the party and I still arranged it, and then I got picked up and come straight to that. So like no real regrets around that, because I made it. Came straight fresh out of hospital after my operation.
I'll never forget that day. And you looked exhausted. You looked finished. You looked broken, my friend. I must be honest. You looked broken that day. And you still put on that brave face, and you still came through, and you still gave the last little ounce of energy you had that you possibly could give that day. And, you know, that's one of the days where you taught me a lesson about starting to take care of myself already, even though I've learned a lot, but whether I apply it is a different situation. Applied knowledge is power. So,
Yeah, absolutely. But
looking back at
that's the
it,
thing, is actually like that embodiment is taking that action. So like the biggest thing that I've learned through this whole journey and self-discovery, after, nearly giving up on my marriage completely. And, when the kids came to me in Thailand, and just learning to like be a mom and be present at the age of 30. Like I've been a mom since I was 16, and only at 30 I'm like, okay, time to be present now. What do I do? And actually really giving myself a chance to be a mom, but the way I want to be a mom, to be me, and to look after myself. I haven't been sick since.
That's amazing.
And I was so sickly in South Africa, so like I get it, but I haven't been sick since. I've got to share the most magical moments with them, and it really is just about putting yourself first, just for once in your life, like just checking in with yourself and saying like, who the fuck do I actually want to be?
I remember when you were in hospital, when you missed Kai's first day of school, I remember saying to you, Terri, if I don't start looking after myself, I'm going to end up where you are. And that was a big, big eye opener for me. And it shocked me and it scared me. But again, it didn't do anything until now, where I kind of got the opportunity to have all this freedom, So, but yeah, it was a big eye opener. It was scary. It was scary to see you lying there in that hospital bed, my friend. It was very scary. And realizing how much we didn't look after ourselves.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And how important the mother is, the head of the home in a way. She runs, she's the glue. And if mommy's not okay, I can guarantee you the rest of the family is not going to be okay either.
Totally.
So, moms, it's so important for you to make and create that time for yourself. And I know that you feel pressured. Oh, I don't have that time, because my friend keeps saying to me, but I don't have this time. I don't have somebody to.
You have to make the time. This is the thing that you have to make.
Then
the
pick
time.
up the phone me and say, come, I need an hour to myself. I will be there. I'll come and look after your child for an hour. But you've got to make that space for yourself, whether it's an hour or whatever. But yeah, you need to.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And not feeling guilty about making that time either,
That's
I think
the
that's
hard
the
one,
biggest thing is,
Yeah.
and this is again why I'm so passionate about doing this and creating those like women circles, because this is how it should be done. We should be coming together. We should be talking about these things. We should be holding each other's hand, reminding each other that we're important.
Exactly. This is what Dre said to me the other day as well. Everybody says it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to support the mom.
Yeah,
which I thought was so beautiful. It is. It's so important that we support each other, especially when we're feeling low and feeling like, oh, I'm the only one going through this. Believe me, when you are feeling like you're the only one going through this and you do reach out, you'll feel that weight lift. I keep saying in our groups as well, a problem shared is a problem halved, guys. Just being able to share that is taking that weight off of your problem. You might not have the answers, but just having somebody to listen to you is so cool. I find that very important.
And I think when we say it out loud, we realize that it's something that can be changed or, worked on or overcome. But when we're constantly internalizing it on top of all the, inner critic that's going on, it becomes even harder to kind of manage and work through. So, this has been such an amazing chat. And I know I said I'd try keep it to 45 minutes. I'm sorry, I had no control over that.
No, it's been awesome. It's been lovely. It's just been lovely to have a mom chat, and that's what our kind of dream and our vision was about, just being able to share and know that you're not alone and that you're supported and you're loved, and we've all got challenges and we're all here to hold each other's hands.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, and for, of course, just being here with me and supporting me and helping me make this come true. Started off in your lounge, and here we are live
12 years later. Can you believe it?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you, my Candy. You enjoy the rest of your day, and any other moms that are out there, thank you. And thank you for watching. And sending you all so much love.
Lots of love, guys.